Hello, Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So again, for those that don't know or did not actually get a chance to see my post or my previous episode, again, we're having to change things a little bit differently because of my current situation. I do apologize for that because, trust me, this is not the way I would like to do my show setup, but unfortunately, when you're in the middle of what would be known as BFE land and technological resources are limited, you have to make lemonade with lemons. And unfortunately, I don't got many lemons, so this is what we have to work with. But anyway, for this episode here, I wanted to take some extra time. I wanted to put some extra attention on the Lions from last night's game that I think really deserve it. Because, again, as I'm going to talk throughout the course of this week until we actually start talking about the Bucs, there were a lot of guys in that game that I simply just did not think did a very good job, that did not step up and actually play to their true potential, to the true measure of what they've done in the past. And that to me is troubling. That to me is annoying. But I fully expect that as time goes by, it should get better because that's not the standard. Dan Campbell won't accept it. These players won't accept it. And I know that. So while I am annoyed, I still have hope. I still have plenty of optimism. But that's besides the point. The point is that if not for a couple of guys last night stepping up and doing their jobs well above and beyond what they're supposed to do, we would not have won that game. There's no two ways about it, no ifs, ands, or buts. And for me, I think that the four biggest guys that we need to talk about, two of them probably you already know. But there's two other ones that I don't think a whole lot of people are going to probably talk about or not talk about as much as I'm going to. So who am I talking about? Who are the heroes from last night's game? Who are the players of the game that really are the reason why the Lions won last night? Well, let's first and foremost talk about the guy that everybody's talking about. David Montgomery. Monty or Demo. I'm going to tell you this right now. Say what you want about Jahmyr Gibbs. Love Jahmyr Gibbs' talent. Love his explosiveness. Love what that guy can do with the ball in his hand because he is dynamic as hell. But last night, the field belonged to David Montgomery, not Jahmyr Gibbs. Pardon me. David Montgomery last night literally was the little engine that could because he is not exactly a guy that gets a whole lot of recognition, but boy, does he do a lot of damn dirty work, and he has got a motor that just does not quit. And dude, we saw that all last night when he was on the field because when he was playing, that dude was literally going through 3 or 4 guys. He was pushing piles. He was making plays happen. He was a freaking person that was just on a mission and would not quit. And for me, that is a very definition of the grit mindset, the persona that this team has. And David Montgomery embodies it very well. But I saw a player in Montgomery last night that literally almost put the team quite literally on his back. You go back to that last drive in overtime. The Lions practically gave the ball to Monty the whole length of the field. I think we only threw the ball 1, maybe 2 times. Otherwise, it was the Montgomery show all the way down the field. And it was a sight to behold. It was good, old-fashioned, gritty, 4 yards and a cloud of dust football. That is old school football, and there was a reason why it was working. The Rams were tired as hell. They were freaking, exhausted. And it was more a matter of who wanted it more. And David Montgomery wanted it more than anybody else. Because even if his offensive lineman could barely get holes available, he would punch through what was there and still pick up 4 or 5 yards. And I'm telling you this right now, David Montgomery is probably one of the most undervalued and underappreciated running backs in the NFL. Without a shadow of a doubt. Like, when most people talk about the best running backs in the NFL, David Montgomery is never, ever in that conversation. And let's call it for what it is. He's not a flashy guy. He's not a big name guy like, King Henry or anything like that. But I'll tell you this right now, you put the ball in his hands, you are going to get consistent, reliable results. And that is exactly what we saw last night. Practically every time Montgomery had the ball in his hands, he was picking up a good chunk of yards, and he was getting it done. And without Montgomery last night, we don't win that game. No two ways about it. That's the truth of the matter. So he's definitely hero number one, player of the game number one. Player of the game number two, hero number two. And I'm going to tell you this right now, nobody deserves this more than Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams has been, freaking scrutinized. He has been, demonized by a lot of fans ever since he got here for all of the stupid crap that realistically should never, ever have gotten him the amount of, nonsense thrown his way that had happened. Because I get it. Everybody wants to talk about the gambling suspension, but you know what? I'm not gonna begrudge that against him. Everybody wants to talk about him going to that Coney Island on the bad side of freaking, Detroit. Everybody wants to talk about the firework incident. These are all trivial BS kind of things that don't really make a damn bit of difference. So to me, it's like Jameson Williams realistically has been getting all of this flack just simply because, we spent a 12th pick, a 12th overall pick in the first round on him, and fans haven't liked the fact that the guy has not shown anything on the field of any substance. Well, you can't say that now, because last night, that's exactly what that kid did, and he was a sight to behold. Freaking that 52-yard bomb from him to Jared Goff, first and foremost, I'm going to say this right now. Ain't nobody going to say now that Jared Goff can't throw a bomb to Jameson Williams because we saw it last night in full splendor. Jameson Williams took that ball and was literally off to the races, and that was all she wrote. Then on top of that, we saw the throw over the middle that was for like 30 yards on that crossing pattern. Jameson Williams, again, doing what he does best. And then we continue to see Jameson Williams do the end arounds, making those sweeps, making those runs. Again, that is what Jameson Williams provides to this offense. He might only touch the ball maybe 5-6 times a game, but when the ball is in his hands, it's a sight to behold, and he is going to make a whole hell of a lot of plays that way. And I would much rather have him touch the ball 4, 5, 6 times, and he's picking up 15, 20 plus yards a pop, rather than not having a player like that. And that's the truth of the matter. So for all the fans that wanted to say Jameson Williams was a bust, Jameson Williams was no good, that he was a freaking, immature kid, you know what? You might have been right about the immature kid part because Brad Holmes even agreed on that one. But you know what? The kid was not a bust. The kid is not a bust. And he is sure as hell one of the most talented guys that we have on our roster. And I'm telling you this right now. Jameson Williams and Jared Goff, they're going to make a lot of damn noise this year. Ain't no doubt about it. So, Jameson Williams, definitely player of the game number 2, hero of the game number 2. Player of the game number 3, hero of the game number 3. Alex Anzalone. I'm going to tell you this right now. Alex Anzalone made some tackles last night that were absolutely spectacular. They were hard, bone-crunching hits, and he was the enforcer. He was making a lot of plays last night that were like, okay, this guy, as we already knew, leader of the defense. But at the same time, he was absolutely the guy who was stepping up on that defense and making plays when we absolutely needed it. The only other guy I probably would throw in that category would probably be Kirby Joseph, just because he picked off Stafford in the back of the end zone. And I just, like I said, I love the freaking look that Stafford had when he threw that interception, because you could tell he was beyond furious. But other than that, I didn't really see too much consistency in terms of actually making plays. Hutchinson was consistently making pressure, but he didn't really make a big play until the very last play of the game when he sacked Stafford. So for me, it's like, hey, you know what? I can give a shout out to those guys, but Alex Anzalone was the true guy in that defense that was making big stops, making crucial hits, making sure the defense was actually to some degree able to provide some resistance. So to me, I loved what I saw out of Alex Anzalone last night. And you know what? Alex Anzalone is another guy that a lot of fans have been very, critical of over the past couple of years, saying that he's a terrible tackler, or that, he can't tackle for, whatever. And it's like, you know what? Again, you can't say that about Alex Anzalone at this point. The man was literally a tackling machine last night. He was making tackles all over the field, and these were some really tough, really difficult tackles. He was playing that linebacker role to absolute perfection. So again, definitely had to talk about Alex Anzalone. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Probably the one guy that is definitely not going to get any sort of recognition from probably virtually anybody or very few other people that I'm going to put in this video, got to be Jake Bates. It has to include Jake Bates, because I'm going to tell you this right now. For all the fanfare that Jake Bates had coming into the Lions, as you know, from the UFL with the freaking Michigan Panthers, the big leg and all that nonsense, and then we heard all the reports coming out of training camp that, oh, he's looking shaky, he's looking this, oh, is, it already over for him? And it's like, okay, people, calm down here. Dan Campbell's not fretting. Brad Holmes ain't fretting. Dave Phipps ain't fretting. So why the hell are we fretting? Why are we getting so worked up and worried over a guy that, oh, that's right, this is his first true real stint in the NFL, and it's going to take some growing pains. It's going to take some time for him to adapt. So what do we see? Oh, that's right, apart from one extra point in the freaking preseason, he's damn automatic, making kicks. Hell, he had a game-winning kick for us over the Chiefs in the preseason. But yet somehow people were still wondering, is this guy going to really be able to step up when we truly need him to? Well, let me ask you this question. We won that game last night by 6 points, right? Guess how many field goals last night Jake Bates made? He made 2 for 6 points. Now, granted, they were rather short field goals. One was for 25 yards, one was for 32 yards. But correct me if I'm wrong, that 32-yard field goal was at the very end of the game, towards it at least anyway. It was a 32-yard field goal just to tie the game. You're on Sunday night primetime, the whole nation's watching, you're in the middle of a huge freaking crowd at Ford Field, all the pressure's on you to make this very makeable kick. It'd be very easy for a kid like that who knows that, hey, you know what, everybody's watching him to potentially, shank it, flub it, whatever the case might be. But what happened? Oh, that's right, he kicked it through perfectly. Didn't even come close to touching either crossbar. Just literally kicked it straight through as if he'd done it his whole life. That right there is something that most people are not going to recognize. But for me, it's huge. Because again, we only won by 6 points. And if not for that field goal to tie the game at the end, we don't even go to overtime. We don't even get a chance for David Montgomery to do his late game heroics. It all plays together, folks. So for me, it's like you cannot talk about this game unless you include talking about these 4 guys. Because without these 4 guys, David Montgomery, Jameson Williams, Alex Anzalone, and Jake Bates, we do not win this game. Now, obviously, I know there's a lot of other guys that played out on the field last night that had to make stuff happen so that way we could get all that stuff. But these 4 guys I'm talking about, they stood out. They stepped up. They made plays happen when we desperately needed it. And let's call it for what it is. We needed plays last night because there was very little consistency overall from either unit last night. It ultimately came down to a couple of guys making a couple of plays here or there, and then the last drive of the game for the Lions was the most consistent offensive production we had. Because it was just, hey, hand the ball off to David Montgomery and let him go to town, which is exactly what happened. So for me, it's like, listen, we can talk about everybody else that played in that game, and you know what? Some other guys played some decently good games. I thought Sam Laporta played a decently good game. He didn't have as much production as I would have liked. I thought Jared Goff had a decently good game. The interception, that's whatever. He was trying to throw a ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was thick in traffic. It happens. It's whatever. And you know what? I thought Terry and Arnold did a pretty good game last night, despite the fact that, Cooper Kupp had some pretty big, gains. But otherwise, those guys didn't make, the big gains. They didn't make the big plays. They weren't the guys that truly stepped up when it mattered. Sure, they made some plays, like Jared Goff making that 7-yard scramble for a first down on 3rd down. Sure, like, Sam Laporta making that big catch over the middle. Or, Terry and Arnold making a couple of defensive, swats away for an incompletion. But the point of the matter is that those plays, those instances pale in comparison to the significance of the plays that I'm talking about for these 4 guys. So for me, They're the ones that deserve that extra recognition. They're the ones that deserve to get those extra kudos, those game balls at the end of the day. And I know David Montgomery definitely got one, but you know what? If I'd have been head coach Dan Campbell, I'd been like, okay, the other three, you guys come up here too, because it's like, without you guys, sorry, we don't win that game. And that definitely needs recognition. But anyway, folks, I think I've said my piece on this, so I'm going to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I highly encourage you all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I also want to highly encourage you all, please make sure you also share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can, with everybody and anybody as you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel can grow and spread. And with that being said, whether you guys have been here a long time or whether you guys are a first-time viewer, I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope you all are having a great day. I hope you all got something in life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.